Okay, folks, my element of the presentation this afternoon is for stuff that's going to actually happen quite quickly now. A number of you have been offered online interviews, video interviews, either for jobs or for courses, particularly in relation to, let's say, the PLC colleges, but also, the Bus Éireann and some of the other organisations who are recruiting and who are looking to get students as either apprentices or offer jobs to, are doing interviews online. So we said it would be important to try to do a little bit in relation to online interviews or what video interviews are about, and if there are rules and regulations that might be helpful for this. If any of you have already done some, you might come back to us at the end of this in the chat and let us know how you got on and what are the things that you learned. Otherwise, those of you who are preparing for them in the future, you might just maybe use this as a reference point for it. So first section, obviously, congratulations if you have been offered an interview. So that's a really important step. And it's an important step because the colleges or the employers are actually considering you. They're seriously considering you as an applicant. So that's really good. Either your CV has been fantastic, your application form has been fantastic, you're presented in a way so far that makes them want to interview you. So that's brilliant. Congratulations. However, interviews are always formal. Okay, they're about getting the job, getting the course, getting the apprenticeship. So you need to take them seriously. If it's about a job, an employer is thinking about investing money in paying you, okay, over the next year, 2 years, 10 years. That can be 20, 30, 40, 50,000 euros a year. So they're taking it seriously and they need you to take it seriously as well. Okay, if they're interested in you, that's important. The biggest thing for you, whether it's an online interview or whether it's a face-to-face interview, is that you are prepared. Okay, so a lot of preparation is really worthwhile. So if you have a copy of your CV beside you as you're preparing for the interview at the table, if you have a copy of the job description, and try to get a copy or find out what it is that the employer is looking for, because if you have those ticked in front of you, you can make sure that the answers to the questions that you have will relate to that. Have a pen and paper near you so that you can write down perhaps difficult questions or a tricky question or maybe a point that was made by the interviewer at the start, and then you can refer back to that again. It's always a good idea. It shows that you've been interested and listening carefully. After the interview, make sure that you write down any difficult or tricky questions. If you look like you're getting ready or you're halfway between eating your pizza and getting ready to go out for a jog, that doesn't come across as being you're prepared for an interview or you're interested in this job. And that's really important that you don't. If you dress like it matters, and it'll come across as that it matters to you and that they will take it more seriously and you as well. So it's important. Again, don't have too much clutter around you on the table or in the area. So cups of tea, the pizza box or whatever, don't have those around the place that can be seen, because it's very easy for us to turn the camera around by mistake. You can touch it as you're leaning across to do something and they get a nice view of the empty bottle that you have in front of you or whatever. So glass of water, reusable water bottles, they're fine. If you go on again. So preparing the room is really important, and having a room if you've got good connection, good internet connection. So if you can tell people beforehand that you are actually having an interview and what time that is, you can maybe try to keep the noise level down and make it quiet. Try not to do your interviews in your bedroom. Okay, that's kind of a recipe for disaster, because there's so many distractions, and also what the interviewer is looking at. Now, if you do your study and your work in your bedroom and you have a desk and a table like that, that's okay. You may have to use it. It might be the quietest place for you. Just check, what is the interviewer seeing behind you? What are the posters that are on the wall? Have you got clothes strewn around on the floor? Have you got, is it just a mess? Even are there books or pictures that you wouldn't want anybody else looking at that are visible? So the opportunity, I think, to be able to blur the background can happen a lot of the time, so that might be a useful one. Otherwise, it's just important that you clean up the area and make sure that what they're looking at and are able to see is good. Do that well in advance. Okay. Double check, if you're using Zoom, would you double check the name and the background that you have on Zoom, because your Zoom name and your Zoom background could have been something really perhaps embarrassing when you were having a Zoom party with your friends, and you don't want that appearing on the screen at an interview. Okay, and that ties in a little bit with what Miss O'Leary was talking about a little bit earlier. Maybe I should call her Miss, because she calls me Sir all the time. But it's what Miss was talking about when she said that you need to take down pictures from your social media, pictures that might be embarrassing or potentially illegal or whatever. The same thing goes in relation to your Zoom name and Zoom background. Check the sound and the mic and the video, okay, and see again what it is that the interviewer can see from them, their vision of looking at you. If you can, be looking slightly up. Now, I just moved my camera or moved the surface in order to get better reception. A moment ago, I had it a little bit higher, so I was looking up at it. It's actually probably better if you can have it a little bit up so that you're looking slightly up into where the camera is itself. If you're looking down, you're kind of hunched over. It's not great for the double chin, particularly in my case, but it's also not great for, there are parts that you might want to kind of make a little bit less visible. Okay, so try looking up slightly up at the camera. It also makes you sit up properly and have your eyes facing up. Try to have a little bit of light behind you. So if I try moving this camera back again or to the side, okay, you can see that the light is coming from my left hand side, so your right hand side as you're looking at the picture, and then this side of my face is a little bit in darkness. I think in Miss O'Leary's case, the light is behind her, her window is behind her, so as she gets closer to the camera, her face goes into darkness. And if you can kind of change it a little bit so that there's light behind the camera, even if it's an artificial light, then it makes your face a little bit clearer to see. If you're using your phone for the interviews, you can have a little kind of clicker on the back of it, isn't it? That you can, if you put it up on a stand or up on a mug, you can attach it to the mug with a click and it'll hold it in place. But practice, see what it looks like and see what you look like and how well you feel about it yourself. Okay, we move on again, please. So the interview itself, all interviews are formal. In this case, there's going to be an opening, and the opening used to be where you came in the door and you shook hands or you said hello and you went and found a place to sit down in. In this case, the interview will be the same kind of thing, a little bit of a greeting, question on how you are and how you're surviving and all that sort of stuff. And it's to try to make you less nervous and to check the sound and vision quality before the interview really starts, okay? Sometimes, and this happens a lot now, the company will send you a number of questions to prepare. They're kind of not all the ones that they're going to ask you, but there are some to kind of get you prepared so that you're not as nervous. So do prepare them, have a little bit of them. They may not ask all of them, they may ask you one or two, okay? But that's again to try to get you more relaxed, and it's also to try to give you a little bit of an idea of where you're going with this. If you write down the answers, don't read out the answers. Try not to be looking down as if you're not concentrating on the interviewer. And that's another point in relation to the camera. Try to focus on where the camera is on the screen and look at that, because then you get the impression, the interviewer will get the impression that you're looking at them. The middle part of the interview is where the serious questions are going to get asked, okay? If you're not sure about a question, if you're not sure about an answer, you can play a little bit for time by asking the interviewer to repeat the question. And they may repeat it in a slightly different way, which makes it easier or clearer for you, but it's also just giving you that little bit of time to think, and that's always helpful for you. Here's where your research comes in really well. It's important that you know about the company or the organization, that you have looked at their website very, very carefully, everything that's on it. What's their mission? What are they trying to do? Where have they workers? Have they companies or branches elsewhere in the world? Any major jobs or things that they have done? And what exactly is the type of job that they are offering you? What is it that they're expecting you to be able to do? So if you have that looked at very carefully, then you're much more confident and clear about the type of answers you're going to be giving, and much more able to answer the questions that they're going to ask you. If you move on to the next part, the ending section starts to come on fairly quickly once they have determined that you are suitable. So, but it's, 10, 15, 20 minutes can be the interviews, so it's hard to stay focused and stay concentrating. So the important thing for you to do is to know that and be prepared for it. This is your opportunity to ask questions. At the end of an interview, the interviewer will always ask, do you have any questions? It's really important that you have at least one and possibly even two questions that you should ask, okay? Questions around maybe the possibility of training on the job or opportunities to travel and work with other branches of the company, or in the present circumstances, I've written down here, like, how does the company see itself getting back to working in the normal conditions, and what do they see as their future? So that again shows that you have an interest, that you have done your research, and that you are careful about what it is that you're trying to say. Do not ask questions like, how much am I going to get paid? How much holidays do I get? I booked a holiday in Mallorca for wherever, or I booked a holiday in, well, you can't go anywhere at the moment, but I booked a holiday somewhere. I can't start on the 1st of September. Those kinds of questions, don't ask. If you study the website and you know about the company, then that will help you to be focused on the type of question that you ask. Okay, and if the interviewer has already answered the question that you had written down, or the questions that you had prepared during the interview, then you can just repeat that. You can say, I had this question, but in actual fact, you answered it already. Okay, so don't be thrown off and go, oh, I have a question, but you already answered it. Make it clear that you had the question ready and that they did answer it and you were very pleased with the answer. Okay, that makes it very clear to them. So the website will give you questions that you may be able to ask, okay, and that's important for them. All right, can we go on again, please?
Can I just say there, they might have special achievements or won an award, and everybody loves a bit of flattery. So anything like that that makes them a standout, or they're very proud of, people will like being asked about it.
Absolutely, yeah. Why are you choosing them? That's kind of part of it. Like, why are you choosing us? Why are you choosing our course? Why are you choosing our college? Or also, why are you choosing our company if there's a number of different companies? Okay, and don't say it's just because it's next door. Okay, almost finally. So we're into the second last. It's good to have an interview, and it's good to get practice at interviews, but don't do too many of them. Okay, if you become a serial interviewee, that'll get around to the companies as well, and they just sort of say, well, they're not really serious in interviews, they just like this idea of going from place to place. Everyone is nervous before, during, and after an interview. Okay, so don't be worried about that, and the interviewer is aware of that and will try to put you at their ease. Okay, they take it into account. If you are very anxious and very nervous, then write down some of the answers, some of the points that you want to get across, and you can look at those and use them as prompts earlier on, or prompts as you go through. Ms. O'Leary, you were saying something about where they might be able to put up some prompts for themselves. You
could put them on the wall opposite, up high, so that they're not in the sight line of the camera, even if you accidentally flip the camera around, and you're bringing your head up rather than looking down, so it's less obvious, I suppose, if you need a little prompt.
You also had a good idea in relation to some place where you might be able to do an interview from under the present circumstances.
Okay.
Maybe if you could, yeah.
Just if particularly if it's a mechanical related or anything like that, sometimes doing an interview in your car, if you can't guarantee, if you've younger siblings or they could burst through the door at any minute, you can do it in your car and lock the door, or your parents' car and lock the door, because you can use the device for holding up your phone if you're using your phone. It just means that there's no chance you've been interrupted, and sometimes you could even be part in an environment where you're getting some reminders, like if you're in a farmyard and there's a broken tractor in the yard and you're asked about a time you solved a difficult mechanical problem, you might remember the time you fixed that tractor, etc. So sometimes things like that can actually help you. It can also help with connection. You know, you might have to drive closer to the mast if you're trying to get a good connection on your phone, and you can explain that at the start of the interview and say, look, I wanted to do as well as possible, so this was my way of doing it.
Okay, and again, within the 2 kilometre radius is important.
Obviously,
at this moment.
yes. Yeah.
But also at the same time, you know, do, as Ms. O'Leary was saying, do explain at the start, okay, because sometimes the interviewer is going to say, you know, that they're in the car. Are they wearing the work overalls? Is this something that they're fitting in between? So you do have to explain that this is, you know, you're putting yourself in this particular position. You're still dressed officially for your interview, but this is the quietest place, or the place that you're most sure that you won't get any interruptions. Okay, and that'll be a fine way to start the question, or start the interview. Another thing then is to speak really clearly and slowly, because when we're under pressure or we're a little bit anxious and nervous, we speak much faster than we would normally, and also we speak a little bit at a higher pitch. So if you can practice recording yourself, okay, talking about something that you like, or talking about an event that you were happy about, record it, then play it back to yourself and have a listen, and then go, okay, is that really too fast? Would somebody be able to understand what I was saying? Okay, and try to slow it down specifically. It's important. Again, I noticed that I'm doing a little bit of the hand movement and the gestures. Again, that's okay, and that's perfectly fine. as long as your camera and your setup is in such a way that you're not tilting and moving and everything is shaking all over the shop. Okay. And I think we might be on to the final one, are we?
Yes, I think we are.
Okay. So finally, it is really important. Check your social media again, okay? Check down any pictures or posts that are or could be embarrassing, potentially illegal. That could be posts where you're slagging somebody off, but it might sound like as if you're bullying, okay? Get your friends to untag or to take pictures down that you are in uncompromising or compromising positions. You don't want those things on. Planning and good preparation will make a big difference to you, okay, and makes a huge difference to the interview, how confident you are and how confident you come across, whether that's the old face-to-face type of interviews or the new online one. If you make an effort, it will pay off. While you're in lockdown, okay, we can't get out the hairdresser, all that sort of stuff is a difficulty. They are going to be quite understanding of that and mindful of that. They're not looking for you to be made up fantastically. What they want is to see is that you've had a shower, that you washed your hair, that you made a little bit of an effort, that you look like as if you're clean and interview ready. And then the interviews themselves last 10 to 20 minutes. Okay, so prepare to concentrate for that long and try to make sure that you're not going to have too many distractions within that one. Okay, and the very last thing is if you have an interview coming up shortly, of course,